If you have $100,000 to invest, you can easily use it to unleash a dividend stream that pays you $940 a month. That's $11,280 a year in dividends, on just $100,000. I know you're probably thinking this sounds too good to be true, and you should be. Especially when 10-year Treasuries dribble out just 0.7%, and the typical S&P 500 stock isn't much better, with a 1.7% yield. You're not retiring on either one of those meager payouts. But $100,000 invested in a fund with an 11.3% dividend yield, like the one we'll dive into below, gives you a good start toward clocking out, and on a modest nest egg, too. The nice thing about this approach is that you'll still invest in blue-chip companies like Mastercard, MA, Deere Co, Deere, and PepsiCo, Pep. That's the real magic of this strategy. It lets you take low payers like these, PepsiCo as the highest yielder of this trio, at 2.9%, and squeeze them for a far bigger payout. Here's how it works. Step 1. Open a brokerage account. This isn't really a step for many people. If you've read this far, you probably already have a trading account. No matter what kind of account it is, you're fine to use it so long as it lets you trade US stocks. Of course, there's nothing exotic about the funds we're going to target with this strategy. They trade on the major markets, just like stocks. If you don't have $100,000 in your account already, go ahead and transfer it in. Step 2. Buy a closed-end fund next. You'll need to purchase a closed-end fund, CEF. The name we're targeting today is the Gabelli Equity Trust, GAB. Let's get into a little more detail on both CEFs in general and GAB in particular. First, a CEF is like a mutual fund or an exchange-traded fund ETF, but with some key differences. Unlike mutual funds, whose values are reconciled and unit prices are set after each trading day, CEFs trade during the exchange's opening hours, just like an ETF or a regular stock. And unlike ETFs, a CEF has a fixed amount of shares that are established when the fund holds its IPO. While ETFs can, and do, increase their total number of shares outstanding, CEFs do not, which helps keep them small and more manageable. An ETF like the SPDR S&P 500 ETF, SPY, can balloon to have a whopping $278 billion in it, where the biggest CEF has just $4 billion in assets. GAB is much smaller, with $1.3 billion. GAB is managed by a group of value investors who focus on high-quality, mostly mid-cap and large-cap stocks. This team is headlined by famed value investing guru, and Warren Buffett disciple, Mario Gabelli. Mario and his team look for companies with reliable cash flow and rising profits, which is why the fund owns Mastercard and PepsiCo. Unlike ETFs, which usually pay tiny dividends, GAB, like most CEFs, focuses on maximizing dividends to shareholders. It does this by collecting payouts from the companies it holds and rotating assets and occasionally taking profits, which it then gives to shareholders in the form of dividends.